What's up, everyone? Welcome to the channel. This is Ben. Today we're going to be playing a little Planet Coaster 2. This is going to be my first video doing Planet Coaster 2. I played a good bit of Planet Coaster 1, maybe 60 hours or so back in the day, but honestly it was kind of just like a 2-week binge. Hit it hard, really enjoyed it, made some cool theme parks, and then just put it away. Just didn't really have time to invest any time into it. But Planet Coaster 2 came out, and I have been waiting for it, and I've had this idea in the back of my head for a long time to build a cyberpunk themed park, which is obviously named Cyber City, as you can see from the stills behind you. These are just a couple stills of the work I've been doing on the park so far. Nothing too crazy yet, but the new lighting systems in this game are making it really, really cool to do all sorts of Bladerunner-esque type buildings and lighting places. Really exciting to do some cool sequences for rides. As you can see, this is the front of a little shanty town off to the side of the park. Got the torch going. Might change that out. It's a little too tiki for now, but this is just the basics of the entrance so far. Obviously a lot of people in there. I haven't quite figured out a way to reduce the number of guests. From reading online, it doesn't look like you can yet, but that's no big deal. Regardless, today we're just going to be going through some basic building on the park, just some miscellaneous things I've been working on. Next video, we'll get into a specific ride that I've started. You'll see a little bit of work on that at the end of this video, but for now, just kind of an introduction to the channel, introduction to the park, and let's jump right into it. All right, so we're jumping right in. The first thing I wanted to do whenever I was getting on this park was mess with the decals. I didn't even realize decals were in this game. Again, I am relatively amateur at Planet Coaster. Played the first one like 60 hours, enjoyed it, but I didn't even know there were decals in the first one if there were. Before I get to those decals though, I was playing around with the vents on wall decorations. There are so many little intricate menus in this game. I know people are complaining a little bit online about the menus, complaining that they're kind of tough to navigate, and honestly, they don't feel super bad to me. Definitely a little time consuming to get through them, but regardless, I found these decals. I've seen the wear and tear ones, and I really liked those and figured they would kind of elevate the park a little bit. Another thing I've been dealing with on this park that I wanted to do to get it a little better, which you'll see later, is finding a way to properly edge those balconies on the side. They're pretty just jagged, straightforward right now, and as we'll get to later, I found what will at least be a temporary solution for that, but in the meantime, just doing these decals. I have found that doing a slightly darker color than the building you are actually working on is what kind of gives you the best wear and tear look, and I've been tucking them up under signs and balconies, you know, as if that water is draining back behind the balcony over there, some sort of leak in the concrete. I put that one right on the side of the building, decided it looked weird and put it away. So I just kind of stuck to this format, easily looping them around and putting them up top there. And yeah, this park, it definitely is inspired by Blade Runner. I'm a big sci-fi fan. I love William Gibson's Neuromancer series, the Sprawl trilogy, if anyone knows of that. Great book series, highly recommend it. But I've also been messing around with ways to make the roof look a little better on this park. You know, I just did these rounded tops at a different color because I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I might switch over to all corrugated metal the more I look at it, but I'm just playing around with some different building and wall decorations, even looking at some scaffolding, but it feels a little overkill, and got sidetracked by the balconies. I already know where I'm going to be using those later. I've got a cool idea for them on one of the rides I'm working on that you'll see towards the end of this video. But finally, I found these little scaffolding pieces that I thought were cool, got them sailed properly, you know, change the color to match that top color is sort of a transition piece, and just getting them lined up. And I actually end up kind of putting them all across the park on here, which not all across the park, all across the roof on here, which I think looks pretty nice. Definitely adds a little bit of flavor to it, adds a little bit of dimension. That's honestly, I think, going to be the hardest part of doing a cyberpunk park like this, is giving it dimension. When I first started this park, it was like flat walls, and I did the beveled corners because I like the more rounded look. I think it's a little more natural, not as harsh, but even then it's like I've put these gutters on. I've tried to do different types of windows. I actually messed with the windows in this video, you'll see later on, but I think little like edge beveling things that give it dimension, like those scaffolding pieces, are going to be huge in getting this park to look just a little more realistic. I also have some fun animatronics on the side with those lift platforms. Really dig those. Really dig all the lighting in this game. The new lighting system is awesome. Can't wait to make a dark ride for this park. Have no idea what the theme is going to be yet. Jumping over here and working on the scenery a little bit. I've got this parking lot that I found in the workshop because, believe it or not, I didn't feel like spending, 10 hours putting together a parking lot. It felt like a good foundation. I'm definitely going to go in and adjust it later on. I don't think that brick works super well. But the coloring of it's good. The trees are fine. The plants are fine. I probably won't do too much there, but I'll probably go in and adjust that brick. And right there, I was just kind of getting it squared away to make more sense. Got the buses out front. We'll probably do some work on those to make them look more realistic later on. But for the time being, those buses are just going to kind of stay put. Now we're jumping over here, sifting through menus left and right, looking for those decals, trying to figure out where to put them on this building. Really, honestly, have no idea. So I just default back to under the balcony. It makes the most sense. We'll get the color set on those and bada boom, bada bang. Looking good. Did more of a green color for that. A little bit of slime action there. Finding the best one for these windows here, getting them locked in. Got some slime dripping from the windowsills, some crusty living in Cyber City. And then finally, I got rid of these old windows. I hated how they looked. I tried a fun idea right here of using one of the buildings. So it was like, oh, it's a shut down building up there. It's got the, little metal slidey thing closed, but ended up not liking that. So we jumped back, found some windows that were a little different than what we had used previously, and just had to get them sized right. So we'll throw them on here and then see what we jump into next. I had such a hard time aligning that one. Mega pain. Yeah, so the front of Cyber City is looking pretty cool. Jump to nighttime, do a little walking in the city. I'm very stoked about how it looks at night. I still think there might need to be a little more for the entrance, but for the time being, I'm pretty cool with it as is. I'll show you that shantytown in better detail later, but now we're jumping into the queue line of my first ride I am working on. Right now, the working name for this ride is Block 492. It is going to be a multiverse coaster that rides pretty low to the ground, as if it's riding through the streets of like a cyberpunk city block. We'll get back to that in a minute, but for now, I thought I wanted to change the coloring of Cyber and Cyber City. Definitely didn't want to, as you saw there. But yeah. So here is the basic foundation of Block 492. Obviously, like literally just started messing with the path here to get it a little better. Really bummed that the queue builder doesn't have a grid. It's just curvy lines. I think they'll probably fix that. I don't know if they had anything about that in the December patch. We'll see. But for now, we're just going to make do with the curvy lines. Still figuring out stairs and pathing. I didn't realize you had to put an entrance on there first. So I go ahead and do that. But yeah, this ride, it's going to be a multiverse ride. The train cars, I'm going to try to design to look like actual cars. And essentially the theme is going to be, you're shooting out of a garage, down into the street, right into oncoming traffic. You bounce to the left, jolt over an intersection. I'm excited to build some street lights. Later on in this video, you'll see I lay down some of like the basic lines in the street and some curbs. I'm going to make these buildings taller, as you'll see at the end of this video. Going to make them, jump up a couple more stories and deck them out with windows, and also deck them out with those balconies that I was tinkering around with earlier. I think it's going to look really, really cool, having like a super, super dense city block. Here's me just poking around with the flat rides. I know for a fact I'm going to do a drop tower and like a big, Cyber City skyscraper. I got carried away poking around with it. I really like how basic they are and that they allow a lot of room for creativity to actually attach pieces to the ride. Finally, here we go. Boom, we get back to Block 492, and we're just kind of working on laying out the city portion of it, getting things square and even. I'm sure there'll be a little more like diversity and scale to these buildings once we're done, but for the time being, I'm kind of just trying to get like a foundation laid out with all these blocks. Don't know how realistic this is, because like that would be a ton of metal and concrete. But then again, you see rides like Transformers and those dark rides and like whatever that Star Wars one is at Disney, Rise of the Resistance, where it's like on acres upon acres. So we'll pretend I have unlimited budget like Disney. But yeah, you can see I threw down a couple test cars there just for scale to get an idea of what it was going to look like. It's pretty cool, shooting that multiverse coaster up that first turn and then right down into a street, seeing those headlights from the car. I love that the cars actually have headlights on them. It looks like, oncoming traffic is coming right at you. I haven't looked through the sound effects in the game yet, but hoping they have car horns and things of that nature so I can actually make it feel like, you're in the city streets. So here's where we're working on the curbs. I really liked these little yellow and black curbs. They feel, you know, super classic, kind of dystopian looking. Obviously, it's just the construction colors, but I had already colored the ride black and yellow. It felt like an appropriate color scheme for this. So super excited to use these. Getting them laid out, getting them straightened out as best as I can. Yeah, they're just going to be like the, you know, sides of the street. It's going to be wall-to-wall street, no sidewalks in Cyber City. Obviously, not a safe place for pedestrians to move. And the roller coaster will be, you know, crazy dangerous feeling as well. Not really. It's a moderately speeded coaster. I think it gets up to like 40 miles an hour-ish. I'll have to actually look at the stats later. But for now, just getting this stuff lined up. The dune buggy's neat. I wish you could get rid of the flowers on it. You know, I did it all black so they don't show up from a distance. And, you know, when you're going 30, 40 plus miles an hour on a roller coaster, you don't really notice. But, like, come on, guys. I don't need flowers on everything. And I also don't need the Planet Coaster logo on the entire queue. But that's a point for a different time. For now, we are still laying out these city curbs. They don't look like too much now. But by the end of the video, whenever you see the curbs laid out on, you know, both sides of these streets, and I get the arrows for the direction of lanes laid out, it really, really starts to kind of come together. I had to do some scaling tricks here and stack pieces up so that it looks like a bigger curb, even though it was a smaller one. And then as I was doing this later on, I realized that the entire thing was off the ground right there. That was a horrible moment of realization. It was giving me a pain to select it. Get it bounced down though, get it lined up, get it set, being a little OCD about it, but that's okay. Get it squared away, get it looking good. If you line these up yellow to yellow and black to black on it, they don't do the weird flickering thing that happens whenever you put like walls against each other and whatnot. But I realized the street was a little narrow there, so we're gonna move it out, slide it over to the side, get it straightened up. And then I believe I go ahead and grab the rest of this city block and get it marked off. We'll see though. For now, I'm just being OCD and really trying to get these pieces lined up just right. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this stuff with angle snapping and whatnot, but sometimes I start free flowing and get in the zone and just want to see pieces come together, and I don't really think too much about where I'm going. I'll try to plan a little more. Again, the next episode I do here is going to exclusively be work on this coaster unless I get sidetracked, in which case if I do, I will pull it out of the video. But I really want to kind of dial in and try to get this coaster done next before I move on to any other pieces of the park. Here is where we're starting to lay down these lanes. I'm trying to get it perfectly straight with the line. Flip it around and get them evenly spaced, using the arrow to evenly space them, duplicate it, get them as close as I can, and then boom, we drag those over. Already looking cool. We're going to duplicate them and flip them to the other side here in a second. I must have done something wrong there. Don't even remember what I did, but here we go. Bada boom, bada bang. Grab them, flip them around, bring them to the other side, put them on the opposite end, and that right there is a street on block 492 of Cyber City. Here I am bouncing around in the coaster way too fast for you to tell what's going on, but that's okay. We'll have a slowed down video later on in the series, probably next episode once I actually start devoting more time to this ride in particular. Now is where I'm going to raise up all of these buildings. I realized whenever I was going through that last ride that it wasn't quite tall enough to feel like you're really, encompassed in the city block. I'm thinking kind of like, the Dread movie or like Bladerunner, obviously, where, you feel like you're completely encompassed by all the concrete and metal around you. So I figured I would raise it up a bit, get a little bit of differentiation and height on that middle building, and then get this whole outer line done. Actually, this first time, tried to raise it up, accidentally move it aside, and then have to undo and click through everything again. If there's a quicker way to select a bunch of stuff, please let me know, because I'm doing it the slow way right now, and it's probably not optimal. That being said, feels much better now. Whenever I ride the coaster later on in a test, you feel a lot more like encompassed by the city aspect of it. It's going to allow it to be a little darker in the daytime as well, which hopefully some of the cool lighting will shine through. I'm sure I'll do some cool roofing stuff and like bridges going over top to block out the sunlight more as well. So yeah, again, next video, we're going to jump into working on Block 492, the street coaster, a little more. But for now, that is the first episode of this build, and I am looking forward to showing more Cyber City with y'all. Thanks for tuning in.